I'm really, really keeping an eye out on this Occupy Wall Street. I want to know who's running it. I want to know who. I want to know that if I'm part of the 99%, that my views are actually being heard. From my life experiences and the research that I've done, if I do not have a say, then I'm not part of this 99%, and neither are you. Now, from my observations, all systems are flawed. Our medical system is flawed, our education system is flawed, our justice system is flawed. Anywhere in the world, the only way we can get to this point is if crime pays, and our justice system works very, very hard at making criminals look innocent. And our justice system, we've all admitted it's flaws, but it's the best we've got. We can do better, but we choose not to. But our justice system definitely needs change. Our government structure needs to be changed. So to see the problem means I would actually know what it looks like if it was fixed. If it was fixed, then I know that if I live my same experiences, there's something there to prevent it from happening again. So the way I'm monitoring or trying to report on what's going on this Occupy Wall Street, because I'm not a fan of Alex Jones, who's the fear monger and seems to be working for the wealthy guy. He's making an awful lot of money off of pushing a lot of fear. There's so many groups that as soon as I see them going down a really, really wrong path, I disassociate myself from them. And yes, I will be very, very critical of them. Now, this Occupy Wall Street, how I'm investigating is I'm on the list of all of the people that are working behind the scenes, the people that are designing our communication systems so that we have a say. How we have a say, how we're able to receive information and process that information so we can see what the hell is going on, is all being done behind the scenes, and you can see all of the conversations that they're all having, so you can know exactly who's who and who's doing what. Now, 99% of the people that are involved in this protest are on the same page as me. I got no problems with anything that I've been seeing there. They are people that want me to be heard. But there is one guy that seems to be having the most influence. He seems to be providing assistance. He seems to be taking over. And because he's so helpful, everybody else that's working thinks he's a great guy. And he's one of us. But he's not. This is run by the United Nations. So you be the judge. First of all, the United Nations gave Obama the Peace Prize for peace. And yet the biggest guy that is creating as much war as friggin' possible and as much poverty is Obama. So as soon as you see the word United Nations, that's an organization that has zero interest in humanity. Here we are, care about you, but the only people that are in charge of the United Nations are the top 1%. The top 1% are taking over Occupied Wall Street, and you can't even see it. Now, here's the first of all, there's a few people offering suggestions and ideas, and I may be critiquing, because if I see it go down the wrong path, I'm going to comment on it. That's what I feel my purpose is in all of this role, is helping this go in the direction that we all want it to go into. Not my direction. I'm interested in the conversation to find out where I'm wrong. So I need to be able to voice my opinion, and through the conversation, find out whether it is right or wrong. Now, there is one other guy that has another, Earth, very concerned with the Earth and the planet and how we get along with it and keep our planet healthy. This guy I had questions about, but he responded by further explaining it. There was no put down, no criticism, nothing. But the guy that comes from the UN, he accused me of not being informed. So that's what the top 1% does, is they have their plans that they don't tell anybody about. It's all big secret. And when they unfold their plans and you got a problem with it, you're an activist, you got any complaints about what their problem is, the first thing they say is, you're not educated enough to be able to know what a good idea is. Only us 1% are smart enough to know what a good idea is. So as soon as somebody comes up and tells me that I'm not educated enough to have an opinion, tells me that, okay, right away, this guy's looking through the eyes of anybody that disagrees with me, just doesn't have the information. And yet he doesn't share the information. He shares links of more of the same that I'm questioning, and he basically said, don't voice an opinion until you're educated enough. Well, clearly I'm educated enough and have an opinion, but as long as this guy's going to say, hey, you're not educated enough to still have an opinion. So what this guy's proposing, nobody on this planet will ever have a say, because if you have a say, you're just not educated enough to have an opinion, according to this guy. And his name is Ted Schulman. He keeps, defending himself and trying to discredit me. But one thing that he did give me is this link that describes it more, which I didn't even bother reading it. The thing is harmony with nature. And he gave me a link to Wikipedia. And he's trying to say that it's not the United Nations, but yet in the article it's like the General Assembly of the United Nations approved with consensus. Yeah, anything the United Nations would approve is something I would disagree with, because I sort of disagreed with the idea that giving Obama a peace prize for starting war. Their concept of a good idea is really warped. They're mentally ill. They can't tell a good idea if it showed up in their face. So as soon as I see United Nations, I know that that's what it is. It's completely a project run by the United Nations through this Ted guy. And then when I did, I've been hearing a lot of people say this Soros is trying to run this thing. So I did a Google search, Soros harmony with nature. Guess what? Tons of shit comes up with him. Al Gore's name comes up. I didn't go in depth, but it's like, isn't that interesting? Al Gore, Soros, harmony with nature. And the one guy that's associated with that and trying to push in the initial stages is this Ted guy. Ted Schulman. So my advice is to be very aware of who it is you're communicating with, because I have no fear of the UN taking over this or any other group taking over this, because the system is being designed so everybody has a say. Right now, I have a say. So I'm going to make a video and make a say and try and be heard. Don't know if I'm being heard yet. I will see by the reaction of this video. But if you have any concerns, if you are in support of Occupy Wall Street, you need to get the United Nations out of there, because they are running the show right now and they're pretending to be part of the 99%, but they're not. And they're right in there in the design of the initial system that's going to be controlling our voting. Right now, some of the software that they're trying to create is that if anybody on the planet has an issue, it gets put open source so everybody on the planet can see. Your problem is described, the offer solution is described, and the process of how things get solved are now being designed on this new computer system, so you can tell exactly what's going on in your world. Okay, and how we vote is being controlled by these systems. So nothing's getting fixed if it's run by the United Nations, who thinks, a problem is giving a peace prize to a guy that starts as much war and gives bankers, every criminal license to be a criminal, you give them a prize for that. And they are running the show down on Occupy Wall Street. Do not break away from this Occupy Wall Street. This is the best thing that ever happened to humanity. But we need to catch it in the butt when you start seeing signs of something wrong. If we can't do that now, we will never ever do that in our future. And part of the problem that we're dealing with is this middle class. The middle class has all of the power, and they will play with the middle class as much as possible. But what the middle class doesn't comprehend yet is all of their actions, everything that they think is a good idea. If it's not a good idea, you'll start to see gangs on your street. You'll start to see an increase in drug and addictions. You'll start to see mental health and crime go up. So when you see that, oh, there's homeless people that you think are just lazy and stupid and don't want to work, no, they can't work in the structure of that middle class and what they all agree to. But it's a domino effect. What you did to the lower class, it was created by the upper class, manipulating the middle class to do that to the lower class. So it's a domino effect. What happened to those on the streets and homeless is now happening to the middle class. But there is another class within the middle class. The upper middle class would be the Russell Simmons, would be the TED guys that represents the United Nations. All of those people that still have money within the middle class that are pretending they want change, all they want is their greed back. You know, the upper middle class is fighting against the top class. You know, so they're trying to get all of their money together to fight the top class, just so they both can do everything wrong to the lower class and the lower of the middle class. So anyways, be very, very aware. If you ask a question and somebody tells you you are not educated enough to have an opinion, and they don't give you the required education that you're clearly missing, then it's a con. Then you've been taken over. Because in my eyes, if I, voice an opinion and I could be wrong, tell me where I'm wrong. If I'm lacking information, give me the information that's lacking. So tell me that I'm lacking information, then post me a link that says, hey, it's the United Nations. That's my complaint in the first place. There is no communication with these people. That's when you know you're being taken over, is when you cannot have a two-way conversation and be able to solve a problem. That means there's somebody there that doesn't want a problem solved. I'm here. I'm willing to have the conversation. But they can't seem to show up without being bullies. So be very, very aware of who's running this show. And if you truly are the 99% and the 99% are concerned with everybody within the 99%, speak up now. Voice your opinions. And I'm more than willing to show you the addresses of where to get on some of these lists so you can see the communication going on, and you can see it for yourself. Mind you, if too many people know that and too many people are talking at this stage, it's impossible to get a job done. That's one of the things that is slowing the process down, is they're receiving way too much information and they can't read it because there's way too much. So it's not really a good idea to voice too many opinions. I'm kind of just observing. The only time I jump in is when I think it's really imperative to jump in. But they do need, right now, they're like logins and how can we log in and shit like that. So, but the intention is for everybody to have a say, hopefully, in how the structure of the design of the system works. But the guys, it's all programming. I have a history of programming. I know how manipulating programming is. They have if statements, do while statements. They make you appear like you don't have a choice. It's, while this is going on, do this or do that. There's no other options for you to possibly experience. While this is going on, do this, this, and this, else do this. But there's no other option other than the one that's suggested in the design of that system.